Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chats. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong live for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well. Hey, good morning, folks. Welcome to Monday's Wealth Coffee Chat. Good to see a few of the early birds up and at it this morning. Got David already in the house. How are you, David? Luke's there as well. Morning, Luke. Great to see you, folks. Welcome along. Let's do the quick intros as we normally do. Get the show on the road. Jason Whitton's my name. Most of you know that, but often we have a few new people stopping by. So if you are one of those new listeners or watchers of the show, please give us a shout out in the chat. Let us know what you're up to, where you're coming in from, and any general info that'd be kind of good to share. Great to have you here if that's you. Fantastic. We do this each day, 10 past 8. Most of you know that. Special day today for two reasons. Number one, it's my birthday. There you go. Number two, we've got a special guest on, and I'll bring Joe on in a minute, but good to see a few people here. Jeff, morning, mate. How you doing? Great to have you in the house as well. Hey, today we've got a special guest. Like I said, Joe Pane. He'll be here in a minute. He's waiting in the green room to come on and have a quick chat. Joe's also going to be our guest tonight at Mentoring, folks. So we're getting a double dose. We're pretty lucky of Joe's expertise. But I wanted to set the scene just quickly before I bring Joe on about the idea. This one thing, if you don't get right as an investor, and probably in life, let's say, but today I'm going to make it all about investing as we do, because we're all into property investing. The idea that you as an investor need to master this idea to be able to go the distance for, the next 15, 20, 25, 30 years. What do you guys reckon? Maybe put it in the chat. What might it be? EF. I've put it in the chat. I've given you a little, maybe a hint. You might be able to get it. It has nothing to do with finance, by the way, folks. I'll give you a tip there. But let's have a bit of a look at this. It's a culmination. This is my version of the world. Joe's got much more deeper understanding, and he'll explain it a bit later. But the idea that we as property investors need to be able to manage something called, anyone got it in the chat? Our emotional fitness over the next 15, 20, 25 years, folks. The idea that our mind, we need to keep our thoughts nice and healthy. Our body, if your body's not great, it's difficult to keep yourself on track, and these other ones, which I would call the squishy ones, heart and spirit, the combination of those as a property investor and many other things turn into your ability to handle the ups and downs, your ability to navigate life as it is, because the big wheel keeps on turning. No matter what happens, the world doesn't stop going forward, and we have to navigate that as investors and humans, to be honest, on this planet. But today, we're going to hear from Joe, who's probably just going to give us a little bit of a tidbit about what I'm rabbiting on about, and the idea of emotional fitness and how that sort of fits in maybe when it comes to us as property investors going the distance and building a property portfolio. So I'm going to bring Joe on. Hopefully I can get him on the right side. There he is. Joe, good morning, mate. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. I'll get in the screen here.
Morning, Jason. I didn't realize it was your birthday. Is that the big 5-1?
5-1, yes. 4-1. What do they say? I'm 40 plus 11. So that's the.
Well, happy birthday. I didn't realize. Happy birthday.
Oh, thanks, mate. Hey, listen, we've been chatting over the last, few months. You've been working with some of our team. You've worked with some of our leadership team, and now we're getting you to do a little bit of work with some of our property investing clients. And you've written a book, and maybe share that a bit later on as well. But the idea that over the last 20, 30 years, what you've been doing, helping people regulate, manage their mind, their emotions, their their values, all sorts of stuff. Tell us a little bit about what we might be talking about tonight and what this emotional fitness is about.
Yeah, well, look, thanks for having me, by the way, and hello to everyone on the call here. Look, emotional fitness, in essence, is it's measured by the quality of our relationship with uncertainty. And as we know, with any investment, from the very beginning, from the decision, from the very beginning,
it's all uncertain.
It's all uncertainty. Even after you made a decision. I mean, I've been involved in lots of, like I'm not a real estate expert, but I've bought and sold lots of real estate over the years, and the emotional journey is I'll say it's special, because it is. And tonight we're going to get to flesh out, over the course of about an hour, we're going to really flesh out in reasonable depth, the aspects of emotional fitness that actually impact us on a very high level, Jason. Pretty much you've got 5 sort of core areas. And that is like how you see yourself. So your identity, that's a whole conversation, and we'll delve into tonight.
Yeah, and isn't that one? Yeah.
That you're at also impacts your the quality of your investment decisions. Your values obviously have an impact on that. That's another point of emotional fitness. Emotional flexibility. Now, emotional flexibility is different to the other principles, because emotional flexibility is dealing with the moment, the challenge of the day, literally. It's understanding how it is we actually create our emotions. And that's really, really important, because our emotions flavor and color every nook and every cranny of our experience, especially, of course, when it comes to money, because money amplifies those experiences. And of course, the 5th and final part of emotional fitness is having a clean and healthy perspective on your overall view. And that's why I love it when you actually say things like 15, 20 years, because that the perspective has to be clean and aligned to where you want to be financially, emotionally, spiritually, energetically in the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's so many correlations, property investing, life, any journey of discovery or improvement or whatever you might call it. Certainly the idea that developing yourself to be able to, be more emotionally fit, manage the ups and downs and ins and outs of life, What's the you and I were chatting the other week, and you came and shared that there's a few stages in life that you've sort of identified, which I loved. And maybe you can share a few tidbits of that this morning, because, as property investors, we make a decision, and then there's so much information, data, opinions, things that go on that kind of bombard us every day, constant bombardment, and often to the total contrary of what we've decided to do, buy a property and everyone else is going, the world's going to end, and quick, get out and sell it all, or whatever it might be. What sort of tips would you give listeners today to sort of manage, that stuff,
Well, first of all, I can tell you, I'm 53. I first bought real estate when I was 24, 25, something like that. Yeah. And I can tell you now that for the short period of time that I've been around, it rarely does a 3 or 4 year period go by where things aren't coming to an end. Yeah. and if you look back in history, it's been going on forever, where there's always a certain proponent of society or a certain market that has a very dim and dark view, and that's just how it is. And so in other words, one of the things that really influences our emotional fitness, our emotional well-being, is where you choose to place your focus. Because where you choose to place your focus, that experience expands. It's like, I guess you could say, Jace, it's like if you're tuning into talkback radio, you can only hear that sort of that frequency wave. You can't hear the other stations. If you're tuning into rock music, all you're going to hear is rock music. So the critical thinking principle goes that whatever you focus on is what you actually experience, to the exclusion of everything else. What you stop focusing on ceases to exist in your experience. So, and what you focus on expands. So this is really important, because if you're talking to the wrong people, so people who are from the dark side, things are going to end, what are you doing 10 years, whatever their philosophy is, then that's going to really not only potentially influence your decision-making negatively, in the sense that you won't buy or you won't go ahead with that commitment. More importantly, what you're doing is you're beginning to sort of track your life in alignment to them, which, is not, well, I wouldn't have thought that's the alignment that, the people that are attracted to your courses and to your advice would come from. So it's really important then to focus on people who are more proactive and responsive to opportunities rather than reactive, because the difference between responding to a market opportunity and reacting is a reaction is an emotional response. I see something in the headlines in the mainstream media and I'll react to it, and suddenly I'm actually thinking, oh, maybe I should sell or whatever. Whereas responding is like, well, hold on, let's just weigh up some of the facts here. Let's just see what are the facts here, Jace.
Yes.
And when we've got that balance between, okay, well, what are some things I should be aware of, not concerned about, but aware of, versus, what is the truth here about this particular, opportunity or market?
Yeah, I love that. Respond or react. I mean, I talk about it all the time. The media has no interest in your success, nor do, let's be frank, nor does the bank, nor does the ATO. Like the institutions that we believe, maybe rightly or wrongly, we think, okay, well, they've got maybe our best interest in mind. And it's not a dark thing. It's just a thing. It is what it is. And you're just like, okay, well, if you're reacting to, those headlines or those opinions or those ideas, then, the idea that, you react constantly over a 5, 10, 15-year period, the distance between where you might want to be and where you end up will be quite significant.
Huge.
The compounding effect. No, I love that. And so, maybe, what are some of the things that listeners or anyone can sort of do in that moment, Joe? What are some of the little emotional fitness? What are some of the little workouts, little tips that we can do in moments like this? There's lots coming at us. There's a huge amount of bombardment of information and triggers.
Yes.
What are some of the little tips?
Great question. So when it comes to, because when we see something, let's just say in the news or whatever it might be, right? Well, I don't watch the news anymore, but just say second. It's there's emotion attached to it because of the meaning that we give what we are actually seeing. And so emotion is purely driven and created by the meaning we create around an experience. So for example, if I am walking down the road, Jason, you're on the other side, and I wave to you and you don't wave back, the meaning I put on you not waving back will determine how I feel about that moment. Yeah. And the fact is, I don't actually know why you didn't wave back. So this is the tip I want to give to your beautiful listeners, and that is that there are 3 different levels of truth, or 3 different levels of perception. The first one is purely what's called imagined truth. So this is where I completely fabricate, on no facts, fabricate a story as to why, Jason didn't wave at me because I knew he didn't like me, and I just have this whole completely fabricated, full of commentary, reaction to you not waving back. That's one level. The second level is a little bit more sort of neutral. It's the assumed level of truth. So you've got imagined level of truth and assumed level of truth. Assumed level of truth is more neutral, energetically neutral. It's like, he just didn't see me. I've often missed people myself. It's just dismissed like that. It's not fact that you did see me or didn't see me. It's assumed that you didn't. It's quite neutral. And then you've got the actual truth. And the actual truth is dealing with the pure, hard, cold facts. And that's where data comes into this world really, really. That's where data is useful to manage our emotions. Now, in the case of me seeing you on the other side of the street, you not waving back, how does data come into it? Well, it doesn't. But the actual truth is I can look at it for what it actually is. I'm on one side of the street. You're on the other side of the street. I waved. You didn't wave back. And the truth is I have no idea why. Like he probably didn't, who knows? As soon as I start thinking, probably didn't see me, I've gone up to assume level of truth. As soon as I start fabricating a story that makes me feel like a victim of the situation, I've now gone up to imagined level of truth. And unfortunately, mainstream media tunes into imagined levels of truth to all the listeners and readers of it. And people are living in fear. So when people are living in fear, they are scarcity mindset based. And of course, that means that they can't even fathom, organizing a deposit or getting themselves organized to buy their first, second, third, fifth, 10th home. That
really lands for me, that imagined level of truth. And for quite a lot of COVID, that imagined level of truth for in a lot of different ways was, but in my opinion, sort of completely insanely out of control. What I could see where things were going, and when we sort of as property investors actually dive into some facts, we're like, well, hang on, this and this, and normally when that happens, this happens, because that's kind of economics. Maybe we should pay attention to that rather than this.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Luke makes a good point there in the chat. He said mainstream media is either, thanks for that, Luke, is either boom or gloom. And of course, the swinging emotional pendulum of that is that when it's boom, okay, someone will buy or act. And then, but if their decision was based on the booming mainstream media story, they're going to react to the doom, which is inevitable. So you can't base your decisions on that.
That's so true. That's a penny that's just dropped. If you make your decisions based in either of those two extremes of the pendulum, you're going to be more susceptible to reacting.
Completely.
Okay, that's fantastic. I love that. That brings me to like a question. Was it called confirmation bias or something like that? Like the idea that if we've made, like if it's a a gloom story, you go looking for the gloom confirmation, in those sorts of things. And maybe just give a few little tips around that one for the moment, and we'll act on fact indeed, Luke. But tonight we're going to cover a bunch of stuff, but maybe what would be some closing commentary around managing yourself, making good decisions, but in maybe high emotional times or stressful times.
Yeah, there's lots of angles we can approach from a behavioural standpoint with that. So I'll just choose one for now because that's all we have time for. But we'll expand on this tonight. But I think it's just being aware of what your values are in terms of how you see your life playing out. Like, in other words, for what purpose are you buying this investment? What is it going to give you? And I'm not talking about returns and dollars. I mean, that's given. But what's it going to give you in terms of quality of life and time and experience? So your values around perhaps family or travel or adventure, or you might have a really expensive hobby that you really, really want to go after, or whatever it might be. What's the purpose of this long-term investment? That is a significant part of the decision-making process. And what's interesting also, Jason, and I'll tie up on this comment, is that I'm a big big fan of language. I love language because language often tells us the truth around what words really mean. And what's interesting is that when you look at the word decide, the CIDE part of decide, like if you think of insecticide is to kill off or to cut off, homicide is to kill. So decide is to cut off from your past. So often what people do is they make the mistake psychologically of basing their decisions on some mistakes or negative experiences from the past. And so when we're making decisions in 2024, like it's always been like this, but I'm saying it now because it's 2024.
Yeah.
Is let's cut off from past, unless there's something in the past that's useful to us and resourceful and positive, then rock on, go for it. But for most people, they have a default historical narrative which is quite dark and negative, and they still fall under the influence of that rather than looking at things as they actually are right now, starting again and begin again, and let's go forward. So that's an interesting fact on the word decide.
I like that. Yeah, that's a great play on that. Well, that's mate. Yeah, I'm really excited for tonight. I'm pumped, and there's a bunch of folks on here right now. So make sure you spread the word, team, and make sure you get along to tonight. Joe's going to spend an hour plus with us talking in more depth about this stuff. I can tell you right now, you can buy all the properties you want, but if you can't navigate life emotionally and mentally to keep them, that's what I've got a saying: buy well, don't sell. It sounds easy, right? And it's so easy to buy. Buying's actually the easy bit. The not selling's the hard bit. I've done this for 21 years, coaching people, Joe, and so many different twists and turns in life put people under pressure and stress, and many of them, I think, are navigable. I think if that's the right word. If you've got no, mate. Looking forward to tonight. Really appreciate you popping along this morning and giving us a little bit of a highlight, a bit of a tidbit of what's going to go on. So appreciate you, and look forward to catching up with you tonight in more detail. So thanks, mate.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, Joe. All right, there you have it, folks. Make sure you get to mentoring tonight. I'm really pumped about this stuff. You know, the mechanics of investing, you know, are often easy to understand. If you follow the bouncing ball, 1, 2, 3, 4, do this, then that, we can make a fist of it. But like Joe said, if we don't get our language, our mind, our heart and body and soul all marching to the same tune, there could be friction. There can be swings in the emotional pendulum that we might want to manage and navigate. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, team, that's it from me today. Hopefully that was a bit of fun. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I love that movie, Braveheart. Gee, that fired me up, that movie, I tell you. It's a great one. But listen, folks, let's do it. Let's get together tonight and see if we can dive into this a little bit more. Good on you, Alex. Thanks, Stephen, Luke, and everyone else who's there. Brendan, Tim, Cole, Kevin, Sonia, Jeff. I know there's a few others there, probably David as well. But great to have you on this morning, folks. As we always do, we'll catch up again tomorrow, 8:10, and have another Wealth Coffee chat. I've got a few guests in the coming weeks. I thought it'd be a great idea to start to introduce a few experts in the mornings instead of just me rabbiting on and hearing this out of my own voice. It's great to have a few different people on. So I look forward to that too, team. So there you go. All right, Stephen, back at you. That's it from me, folks. Done and dusted. Remember, 2 sayings around here. This thing's a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time. And buy well, don't sell. I like this one. Yep. Where is Stephen's one here? Yep, hold. All right, folks, that's it from me. Cheers now. Adios. Bye-bye. See you tonight.